those of you that are new, then by the end you'll obviously have an idea of what's involved as well fully with the enterprise advisor role. For those of you that are already an EA, you'll already have an idea, and this may just be a refresher, so it's a good to sort of attend. Then we've going through the 8 Gatsby benchmarks again, just to see how they relate to school and how you can help the careers leads and the schools to hit those. Then we've got Compass Plus. That's the tracking system that the schools use, so how you can support them, the schools, with their Compass and their tracking. We've got something on SEND as well, the key skills issues, next steps, so how we can help the schools with the next steps, and then again, like we said, any questions. Right. Oh, it's worked very quickly. Okay, so bridging the gap between business and education. Well, that's to probably all of us quite obvious in what needs to happen within the schools. There seems to be a big gap within the schools with regards to what is needed out actually in the workplace and what they think is needed. So by bringing you into the mix, you're really helping them understand what is required. Just general communication skills is the basic one that always comes to the top of my list and the top of my mind as to what is required. So by being able to work with the careers lead on that level as well, they'll find that really helpful. A high profile government programme. Well, as the Enterprise M3 Careers Hub, we're funded by the Careers and Enterprise Company, which reports into the government. So obviously they have their targets, and this is where the Gatsby benchmarks will come in as well. And then we help to work alongside the schools to hit these Gatsby benchmarks. And again, this is where your support comes in as well. As I've said, you know, bridging the gap, we've got here enabling employers to support the development and the capabilities for future workforce. Again, I say again, you know, communication skills are key, and you will bridge the gap for the schools. The expertise that you can bring in as well with regards to your skill set. Yes, you'll be set with one school, you're signed with one school, but you can go out and put your skills to other schools. You don't have to just be with one school. So for example, if you're really keen on recruitment skills and doing mock interviews, you don't just have to do it with one school. You know, why have your skill set in just one school when you could use it in a number of different schools? And believe me, all the schools and colleges will bite your hand off if you're willing to go out there and support them. They're not going to say, no, it's fine, I'm not working with you. They will absolutely 100% have you. And the younger we start approaching all these different age groups, the better. A lot of employers will think just focus on like the years 10 and years 11, and I was guilty of that in my old job, and coming into this role I realized that actually the younger age groups are really important, that you do need to focus on the younger groups as well. So if you are in a school and you're doing a talk for whatever reason, say for year 10, then perhaps just even offer to speak to the younger age groups as well, you know, 7 or 8 or 9. Just, it doesn't have to be as long, doesn't have to be as detailed, but for them to hear from someone that isn't a teacher, for one, will be probably more interesting because they're probably all hating school and bored of school. So if you can go and speak to them about something else, they'll be really interested. So just bear that in mind as well. And the Careers Hub, basically collaborative working, well, that says what it is really. Someone said to me once, when a child walks into the school, they are handing their future to their teachers, and that, I thought, gosh, yeah, they are. So whatever we can do to support a teacher, to support the child's future, then I think that's what we need to do. Now, this slide here is quite small, but basically what it has there is the blue lines are our hub success rates on how the enterprise advisors have felt their role has improved with working with the Careers Hub and with the schools. So it just goes down 1 to 4, and I don't know if you can see it very well, but if I read out what I've got here, so number 1 is helped increase the hours allocated to the careers leaders role. So nationally that was only 7%, but 33% within our hub have actually helped increase the careers leaders role. So they've had extra support due to the enterprise advisors input, speaking with senior leadership team, etc. And then we've got in there, we've helped support them to recruit additional staff. We've also supported them to increase the funding for additional careers activities. And then the bottom one is help develop the skills of the careers leader. So that's a massive, that's over double what the national average is. So your careers role, that you helping the careers leader and your enterprise advisor role is fantastic. So thank you again for just joining us already. So this enterprise advisor responsibility, so we've got a nice little wheel here, and that basically just gives you an idea of what we think you would do to help support the schools. So if I just start, you've got at the top, build relationships with the local enterprise and the school senior leadership team. That is obviously in there as well. That's pretty self-explanatory. We've got connecting with businesses and employers. Schools absolutely love this. This is actually what they want. That's like the top of their list, really. They want as many businesses and employers into the schools as they can get. So with your connections, that's what they'll be hoping for as well. So you can support them in that way. If you can align it as well with help them with their strategic careers plan as well, that would be good alongside the Gatsby benchmarks. So for example, getting careers into curriculum, that would be the absolute end goal would be to have every single subject in school related to some form of career, which I know is a big ask, but that would be amazing if every lesson had that input. That's the sort of thing that we're looking for and that they're looking for. And to help them as well, measure the impact, evaluate it, and just be their critical friend. So just giving them ideas and getting them to sort of think outside the box a little bit. And then obviously we've got in there how it's delivered. You've got the mandatory things that you're always going to have the tick box to do. So looking at that, and then we've got highlight the benefits of the network, the resources, the digital hub. So the Careers and Enterprise Company have a digital hub where they have loads of resources on there that we support them with and that we can send out to the schools, but also there's support there for you as well as an enterprise advisor. Sorry, I keep saying careers advisor, enterprise advisor. So if we now move on to the enterprise advisor commitment, so really the bit where you're all thinking, yeah, how much time do I really need to give to this voluntary role? So we do ask if you would commit to a year to start with, because you can then see the school through. We do a meeting with the careers leads every half term, and they're normally about an hour, and we will do a cluster meeting as well. So that would be the maximum there. Obviously, if you want to do anything more, then you can do more. That's absolutely up to you, but that's what we would ask to start with, and especially to start with because you need to build that relationship with the careers lead as well, just get an idea of how they're running things. Any events, you know, this is up to you. Any other additional events that they've got, if they've got a careers fair and you want to promote your business, then obviously you're right there at the forefront, so that makes sense. Support the EC, so that's us as well. So we would work with you, and we do work with you, just to see what you're getting from the careers lead and what we're getting, so we can all work together. Like I said, that collaborative working, that's key. And then again, like we said, use your networks as well. If some schools do a mock interview day, call out to all your, LinkedIn contacts as well. Anybody that could give up, an hour or something to do a mock interview would be invaluable to those children. Some children don't even get to go out to do work experience. So if they can have the mock interview experience within a school, then that is fantastic. So that is like the wheel of what we would expect you to have for the first year. So now I'm going to, she says, hopefully stop control and pass it over to Shirley to go through to the next part. I've done that, Beth.
Right, okay, let's hope this all comes together. Let's move. It's not moving. Apologies, but it's not moving at the moment. If I say stop control, can somebody just take it back? Be the easiest thing, wouldn't it?
I'll take it back.
if you could move it on, please, then. So we're going to start off by just taking a quick look at the Gatsby benchmarks. Now, you will all be over familiar with that term. It's something we talk about in every meeting, and it's what the DFE have asked the Gatsby organisation and the Careers and Enterprise Company to use as a measure of how the schools are doing. So we are aiming to get all our schools to have 100% on each of these benchmarks. Now, we don't want that to be just a tick box exercise, and it does mean sometimes it might be 100% one term and then go back to 80% another term, because things do fluctuate. So we are realistic, but it's a good benchmark to sort of get an idea of where a school is at, and it actually does really help with our conversations because we can look at the gaps. And quite often the gaps are things that you might be able to support with. So it's a good way in. I will talk a bit more about Gatsby benchmark 1, 5 and 6, but just to briefly say, the benchmark 1 is a stable careers programme. Gatsby benchmark 2 is labour market information, and it's for parents and students and teachers. They all need to understand a bit about the local labour market. So that's where you might be able to help out, because you can go in and talk about your business, about your sector, and any other related information that you have. Benchmark 3 addresses the needs of each pupil, and this is a really important benchmark. The school is supposed to individualise their careers programme to support each student with their needs and interests. So it could be that there's a few students that are interested in your sector. Maybe you can have a chat with them about it. It might be a whole class, or depending on what you're doing. Benchmark 4 is definitely to do with classes. It's already been touched on by Nikki, that talking about how subjects are used in the workplace really does help the school, because it improves their GCSE grades. It helps the student to engage with the subject because it has purpose. Quite often, we hear, why am I learning this? Well, as employers, you're able to say, well, this is why you learn this, and this is how you might be using it, and when you might be using it. And it really, is evidenced that it makes a huge difference. Benchmark 5 is meeting with employers. Quite a lot of young people don't talk to any other adults apart from parents and close family and teachers. And having an encounter with an employer, there's lots of different things that might be set up to enable that, but it really does give them confidence of speaking with people. And we've again touched on communication skills. They need to know appropriate language and how they conduct themselves with business. So very valuable, that one. And experiences of the workplace. If you have any opportunity to give students a chance to visit your workplace or other workplaces that you know of, or even offer work experience, the school will snap your hand off for that. Gatsby benchmark 7 is all about post-16 options. So whether it's degrees, university or degree apprenticeships, or any of the other routes that are possible. And it's quite confusing because there's a lot of new things out there. So we do quite a lot of work in making sure that the schools get the providers in that deliver all the different qualifications, to make sure that the teachers are fully informed, that the parents are fully informed, and the students. So we can support you if you're not fully informed, of course, but you will probably be able to add to that as well through your own experience, or the fact that you might recruit apprentices, for example. And Gatsby benchmark 8 is personal guidance. Every student gets the chance in year 10 to have a one-to-one with a careers advisor, and some of them will get more than one meeting. But that's just helpful for them to make some final decisions. But there needs to be a lot of work done before that in the early years to help them to have a proper conversation with the careers advisor. So as much influence as we can put for years 7, 8 and 9 will make a difference to those year 10 interviews. Can you move on, please? So benchmark 1, it's the fundamental benchmark, really. If everything's in place with benchmark 1, then everything else will line up. because it means that the senior leadership team in the school are taking careers seriously. So it should be linked to the school development plan. There should be plans that are available on the website. It might not be the full version, but it should be sufficient enough to give an overview and, you know, for parents to see what's going on. And it should link to the Gatsby benchmarks. There should be a program of what year 7, year 8, year 9, etc. are doing. And we will look at that. We will, you know, I would say that if you could look at your school's website and just see what they've got there, and in your next meeting say, well, this is what you found on the website. Does it meet what the Compass and the Gatsby benchmark requirements are asking? And if not, you know, can we help them develop what they're doing? Because they really do need to use their website as a showcase. Governors have to approve the plans. So it's good to link with the senior leadership team and governors if you can. Most of us, Beth and Nikki and myself, we try to get governors into the meetings we have with you and the careers leader, because the governor has quite a lot of influence over how the careers leader is able to deliver the programme. And if we can get them on board, it might be that the careers leader needs help because they haven't got enough time to do the job properly, or, you know, any other sort of areas really. I mean, I've got one example where the careers leader's done the provider access legislation, which is another thing they have to think about having on the website, to say that every student from year 8 upwards receives information on post-16 options. So the careers leader's done the plan, the governor has to approve it, and it's just got stuck in the system. So it means that the careers leader can't achieve 100% on benchmark 1. So, you know, getting the governor involved, helping them to understand the importance of these things. So, you know, you'll pick a lot of things up, don't be put off, but you'll pick a lot of things up as we go through the process, because we always do the meetings together, unless you want to take control and actually arrange meetings independently, which you're able to do. So we put down a couple of quick wins, mentioned reviewing the website, you know, using your planning skills, you know, from an employer's perspective, and particularly if a teacher's just been in education and they haven't got a commercial head, you know, you really can perhaps add some value there. And we need to get, as I mentioned, buy-in from the senior leadership team as soon as possible. And my experience has been that we don't very often see the head teachers. So, you know, I always want to try and raise the profile of everybody that's working on behalf of the school, because you're volunteers, you're giving your time, but that's an ongoing thing. I don't know how everybody else finds it. Could you move on, please? So Gatsby Benchmark 5 encounters, to make it meaningful, needs to be two-way interaction between an employer and the students. And it can come in many guises. We've listed there careers talks, CV workshops. But, you know, it's just so important that another adult, as I say, is in the school and has something different to say. It really does have a huge positive impact on students. I've already mentioned how you might support experiences in the workplace. So it doesn't have to be the traditional 1 or 2 weeks with having a student with you. It can be a visit, it can be half a day, it can be actually a virtual work experience as well. Please move on. So I did slip in the word Compass Plus just now. The schools have to use a tool from the Careers and Enterprise Company. It's called Compass, and there's a new version called Compass Plus, which we're encouraging schools to get. Termly, they have to submit a review of where they're at with all their benchmarks. The Compass Plus will also help them to monitor every student's experience of careers, and they can show the student whenever they ask it to see what they've actually covered in careers. So other, you know, the school will be putting data in as to what events took place and what the subjects might have done with having employers into their subject areas and that sort of thing. So, you know, it's very valuable to list all the providers that they use, measure and monitor. But it does mean that they can be more strategic and targeted. And that's all about, I mentioned benchmark 3 being really key, you know, making sure that students don't get left behind, that they're given the same fair opportunities. So we're working on getting people to sign up with that. Right, children with special educational needs and disabilities, not so much disabilities, not certainly severe ones, but there are quite a lot of special educational needs students in mainstream schools, and you may feel that you don't have any expertise to work with those students, but you can be guided to do so if you've got some interest in that. It depends what the need of the student is, but there are also specialist schools that might be, for example, one of them in the local area is for autistic students. Well, some of them are very bright students, as you will know, and they are perfect for so many different types of jobs. So, you know, we shouldn't be excluding them from any experiences that we offer students or any contact we have with students. So whether it's a specialist school or whether it's 1 or 2 students within a mainstream school, you know, I hope that you'll feel that you can support them as much as you might support other students, really. Students themselves, you know, they know what they need and what they can manage. You know, it could be that they've had some family trauma and they just need time to recover from that. But in the meantime, they've lost their confidence or something. There's lots of different areas here that careers can really give students a boost with. You know, so we just wanted to put that in that, you know, if you come across that, or if you think actually you could work with a specialist school, we'd really welcome that, because they are just as important, and there's no reason why they shouldn't enter the workplace and be good employees too.
Thanks, Shirley.
Thank you.
Nikki, if you could maybe keep control just to make things easier, you've got it anyway, and move on to the next slide.
I know it's got stuck, so let's just give it a second, because it may have gone twice now. I've clicked it 3 times because I'm getting impatient. I don't know why it does that. It's not moving, Beth, I'm afraid.
It's not moving, is it? Mine isn't moving either. Okay.
I'm going to take off control.
Yeah, it might be something to do with that control button.
Let me try again.
Just while you're doing that, Nikki, Shirley, it's Sarah Mort here. I just wanted to add around the supporting with the career governor. That's something as an enterprise advisor I've found has been really useful, an area that I could add value for the school, just to raise the profile and the value of ensuring that you've got that link governor involved in the interaction. So certainly for any new enterprise advisors, that's something I think all the leads and anyone that I've interacted with, it's quite a challenge at times to get that interaction if it's not in place, but when it's there, it can really add value. And a way to do that and help is the fact that when you're having an Ofsted audit going into the schools, they're really keen and will ask lots of questions around that interaction of how you're linking to careers, how you do that throughout, and the different activities involved. So just wanted to share that. I know that's been a really area that's been really valuable for my school.
Yeah, thank you very much, Sarah.
Hopefully your screen's working now as well.
Yes. Nikki, can you confirm what you can see?
I can see key skills issues.
Fabulous. So I'm going to talk about key skills issues and hope that the slides move on. So as you're talking to your colleagues in businesses, you might hear some dissatisfaction with employability skills of young people. You know, when we're talking to employers, they're forever telling us they can't communicate, they haven't got the right attitude, they don't arrive looking smart, they don't stay, you know, they on their phones the whole time, they haven't got the right skills. And you know, this is somewhere where you can make a real difference, because you can help improve those skills and let the young people know that those are the skills they're going to be needing alongside the curriculum skills that they're learning in school. So often the information, advice and guidance that the schools, that the young people receive, is seen as being poor and not linked to the local economy. So again, you might hear you know, your colleagues moaning about the information that they've been given, that they don't know about your sector. And again, here's where you can make a real difference, and you can really begin to integrate careers engagement with your sector, but also challenge some of those myths that are out there. Now, it's not moving on, is it? So I'm going to have to...
It's not moving for me either.
This is a very long-winded way of doing it.
I'm sorry. It honestly did work in the practice.
It's always technology,
it really
isn't
did.
it? Sorry. I think what's happened is my screen has stuck. So while I'm talking, I wonder, Shirley, if you'd be able to put it onto your screen. What I was going to say on the next slide is specifically about apprenticeships. So employers often, as I say, moan about the transferable skills, the communication skills not being present, but they'll also moan that they haven't got people applying for their apprenticeship vacancies. And I think you'll all be working in 11 to 16 schools, and often what you'll find is that the students just go on to college without even thinking about the alternatives. They're on a kind of train whereby they've been primary school, secondary school, college, because that's the way Hampshire works, and they don't think about leaving at 16 and going into some of these alternatives. So that's again somewhere where you can go into school, you can give a talk on that, you can educate the careers leader around that, and thereby also help yourselves. And there's as I said, it's an area where you can really make a difference, not just with the students and the staff, but also with the parents. And again, you know, what we've got specific to Hampshire, some other issues, is we've got relatively low graduate retention in that 16 to 20, 18 to 20 age bracket, as students are going school, college, university, again, not specifically thinking about apprenticeships. And if they're going to university elsewhere, their talent and their skills are going with them, and they may not come back into Hampshire. So your input at a young age to really make them aware of these alternatives is really valuable for Hampshire as a whole. And that can thereby increase the workforce productivity, so that we're competing with our international counterparts. It's a problem for Hampshire as a whole that our workforce is ageing compared to the England rate as a whole. And that's because we're losing, as I said, a lot of our young people to universities elsewhere in the country, places where they're finding, you know, more exciting, and then they're staying in those areas rather than coming back. So you can really make a difference there. And Shirley, if you move on to the next slide, please. You can, there's loads of ways in which you can make a difference, and we've mentioned quite a lot of these already, providing insight into your own sector, your networks, talking about recruitment practices. Obviously, the teachers haven't had to apply for a job for quite some time, and often the only jobs they've applied for are education jobs, where it's quite a different process. They're not necessarily doing assessment centres, they're doing mock lessons. So talking about how you recruit your staff is really valuable. mentoring particular students, that can really help. I know some people have done that. Doing mock interview days is really helpful. Nikki's already mentioned careers fairs, talks, as I said, parents, teachers, etc. And Shirley mentioned careers leaders, helping them put the programme together and supporting the senior leadership team. So now if I could ask Shirley to stop sharing, and I'm going to ask Sarah, who's already given us some of her insights, but I'm just going to ask Sarah to talk about her experience as an EA. So Sarah's been an EA since 2017, which is 6 years. So it just shows what a fun job this must be, Sarah, and how much you've got out of it. And she works with Fernhill School. She also works for SSE, so really a big employer, and combining that with a school that really needs, I mean, all schools need it, but Sarah, I think your school really needs to get some aspiration for the students, doesn't it? So Nikki tells me that you've done a fab job. So I'd like to hand over to you for just 5 minutes or so, and then I'll open it up to everybody else. So as Sarah's talking, if you want to put into the chat things that you've done or that you'd like to do, and then we'll come over to you after Sarah's finished. So Sarah, over to you.
Hello, everyone. Hope you're all well. So yeah, I've been working with Fernhill since 2017. I hadn't realised it was since 2017. I knew it was a long time, but that's scary. It's actually, I have to say, I really enjoy working in the enterprise advisor role. The reason that I took on the role initially was because when I was at school, all those many, many moons ago, someone came into our school and had that interaction and gave me the opportunity to see what was the potential was there, something that I wouldn't have considered or wouldn't looked at previously. And it opened my pathway to college and to studying. And actually, I did a lot of my study with SSE as an employer, and recognising the benefit of MVQs and apprenticeships coming through that journey, a route I wouldn't have had naturally myself. So being able to go into a school, give back a little bit of those elements, and the challenging journey and the challenging student I probably was at that time as well was really important to me. So I was partnered with Fernhill School, and I work with the career lead in the school, being Sue Murdoch, and I've worked with her throughout that time. And we've developed a relationship that works, and the best I describe it is for us. It's something that means that us working for the school and for the students and giving what those students need in the right way, is by making sure the school can provide the provision that it needs to. So it's about helping those kids aspire to what can be available to them, opening those doors, let them see the eyes of all the different options they've got. So in my role at SSE, I am responsible for the apprentices, trainee engineers and graduates joining our distribution business. So those people that keep your lights on. So for me, it also helps me understand how and when students will look at coming into an apprenticeship provider, what the challenges might be. As an employer, if I'm looking at reaching out to a school, what the challenges might be. So, and I'll explain why this all links together, and suddenly it kind of brings things to reality. Is as an employer, we would offer students to come to our training school. We would give them the opportunity to come and learn about apprenticeships, apply for apprenticeships. What we weren't doing was understanding the restrictions that can be faced by the school. So how do they get the students to your training school to do a tour to see what's going on? How do they fund it? How do they have the right people with the right DBS checks to support in that process? Do we give them enough time to consider how they're going to get their students there? Who's going to approve it? Do you give them enough time to get the sign off of the parents' letters and things like that? So it's opening up all those doors and understanding. So it gives you that support to understand what's going on. It also means that you can work with the school to set realistic timelines, because you suddenly understand those timelines from a provider point of view. As an employer, what I can do is say, actually, but when I'm recruiting for an apprenticeship, a large organisation is going to start early. So they will start to look in, or we will start to look in January for the September 2024 intake. So sharing that information with schools, because many students aren't looking until quite a bit later in the programme to say, what am I actually thinking about? So how do you ensure apprenticeships as well as college and university options are all put on the table for everybody to consider? does everyone around those tables understand what's available? So by talking to the leads in the subjects in the school and understanding the challenges that they face, you can bring something more to it. So a science teacher, actually, how can we put a science teacher that's never been out, maybe working outside of school, how can we give them real life experiences of what it's like to be going through an interview, or what you might feel, or going into a different career at the end of it? Well, actually, come and spend some time in our training school. That's something we could offer, but what could somebody else offer? It's not necessarily you as a provider. It depends on the size and scale of where you're coming from, but you can tap into all the resources. So tap into the rest of the enterprise advisors, all the other employers that you know, and the interactions. And actually, you've got Nikki and Shirley and everyone in the team here who can give you advice and support to say, there's other schools doing different things. What can work? Being a voice for your careers lead is really, really valuable. And I think that's where in being that voice, I've ensured that they've been able to get the help they need from a careers lead. They've got a great career governor in place at Fernhill. That wasn't the case when we started, and they were struggling to get that engagement and interaction. So we were able to make sure that that partnership developed. And actually, we have those 3 or 4-way meetings with Nikki in as well to say, let's all get in around the table together and let's discuss what do we need to do to be successful for Fernhill. How do we make it that those students have got career aspirations and have got visibility of what's available to them? So as an enterprise advisor, it's helping to make that communication, make sure that they're heard. And sometimes you do have to be a little bit pushy with that as well, if I'm honest. There was a time when I considered stepping away from the school. I'll be dead honest with you. I could help the careers lead, but we couldn't take it any further without that support. And that was a conversation we had with the head to say, I can offer support, but to take this forward, you've got to work with us, you've got to partner with us. And actually, we got heard. We did it really constructively, but we got heard. And we set the career strategy now each year that we take that along to the governors and share that with them so they know the interactions. So helping to have those conversations and the resourcing conversations can help them too. The other thing I would say, and thinking about Compass Plus, which is a fantastic tool, wish I had something like that in so many other elements that I work in, and free for the schools to use. It's amazing what they've got, but you've got a brilliant tool to be their critical friend with. So you can look at their score, their results. You can make sure they're being fair and honest and challenge them to say, well, you've told me about all these things as you do as a school, but are you reflecting that in your results, or are you over reflecting what you're doing in your results? And then ask them to work with them, say, how can we target the areas that you can best improve in? So it's dead simple. It gives you all the lovely graphs that show you where they are, what they're working towards. And if there's an area they're struggling with, then it's dead easy to look and say, how do we target that and work together? Call on this group to help you. So those would be the things I would guide you with, but be honest with them. Be their critical friend. And Nikki would have heard me being in that with the school with Fernhill to say, okay, so I'm going to just ask you to look at that a bit differently. Is that right? You build that relationship where you do that in the right way. You'll all be experienced at doing that in different things. But it doesn't matter if you're an individual representing your own business working with them, you're someone that's retired, whether you're in a bigger organisation, your value gives them in the outside world, and the schools don't have the outside world. So what you're bringing to them is independence, a way to challenge and a way to really help them. How can they be better? How can they give those employability and career skills and opportunities to their young people? And it's great to see the young people grow. Because of that timescale I've been involved, I've seen a fair few come through. Some have come and joined us in our organisation, because let's be honest, I'm an employer as well. I've got jobs. I want them to come work for me. I'm one of the ones that's going, I want more people. I'm not getting enough people coming along to us. So what else can we do? So just to give you a bit of feel, lots of different activities there, lots of ways to do it, but be their critical friend, be their support, and be an ear to listen, because they'll need it at different points. And take away and learn yourself. Absolutely. I've learned so much working with them, from the young people, and then thinking about how as an organisation I interact with schools and colleges, and how do I get the most out of them to support my business as well. you can't put a price tag on the value of doing that you get from this role. It absolutely really adds value. It makes you a better person. So
thank you,
that's for
Sarah.
me.
Thank you. That's really, really helpful. So there's nothing in the chat, but has anybody else who's maybe been in a EA for a little while now, has there been anything that you've done that's been really successful that you think it'd be worth sharing with the newbies?
I think it's fair to say that, you know, if you've got any frustrations, you could share them, because we might be able to help with that as well.
I mean, I was in school with one of mine this morning, and she was saying she'd done a talk to a languages department. Even though she's not a linguist, she did a languages degree. She's an entrepreneur, she's got her own business, but she'd been in and she talked to the modern linguists about, you know, if you've got a languages degree, you don't have to use it necessarily as a languages teacher or a translator or an interpreter, but you can use it to get into business. And it made a huge difference, her saying that rather than the teachers saying that. Sue, do I need to unmute you, or can you unmute yourself?
Yeah, I have. I'm
lovely.
Hi. Yeah, I think one of the things that the school TPS have appreciated is helping them with work experience as well. That's been quite a challenge for them, is to try and source work, particularly if there's sort of areas they're struggling with. So I think that's an area that I've helped the TPS with, and also when if they have career events, helping them to source local employers. I've been to local careers events that are run by other organisations, for example, and then found, you know, been and got a list of people that to help them with their careers events. So there's just a couple of ideas that I wanted to share.
Those are really valuable, definitely. So I can see that you're typing.
So I didn't forget. So I think just leading on from what Sue said, again, great things in there. I think sometimes where work experience isn't possible for a school, it's not something they've proactively been engaging in, because it's a huge resource for them at times. So it's stepped towards. Great advocate of work experience. I think it's vital. But what you can do sometimes is go into the school and do events. So sometimes what we've supported with is like the careers day, but almost like an assessment day. So what somebody would go through in an assessment process for an apprenticeship program, for example, or when they're doing the dummy interviews, but it's a series of small bite-sized chunks. So it might be helping with someone reviewing a CV and application form, someone doing an interview, someone running an assessment centre. What's a hand skills task, for example? What could people expect? If they're doing, you know, the mathematics test, what does that feel like? What does that look like? Along with virtual interviews, any practice of that really gives the students value and makes them stronger when they come through an interview next as well. So whether it's one person doing, I can have a look at a couple of application forms for you, to somebody running an assessment centre day that's a real day of doing interviews and assessments, you can play that part in those days, especially if they can't do a work experience year group and they're doing something different.
That's really helpful. Claire, you had your hand up.
Yeah, hi. You all mentioned work experience quite a lot, and the businesses I work with are shying away from it because they're very frightened about the red tape, the risk assessment, if there's any kind of payment aspect or anything that they need to worry about in terms of legislation. So do we have some advice that I can pass, you know, my side, that can allay the fears on that?
Yeah, I mean, what I would say on that is that this should be of benefit to both parties, and it really shouldn't be about red tape. The only red tape, if you like, that is required is the parents need to agree that the student's going. Sometimes they might need to take them there, but they need to agree that they are there. The school obviously need to know that they are there, and the employer needs to have employer's liability insurance, which I'm sure you've all got anyway, and then agree that the young person won't be left on their own. so that they'll be in an office or they'll be sat with one person, they'll be supervised, and they'll be given something interesting to do. You know, they won't just be making the tea. So the red tape and the paperwork is literally a few, you know, can we see your employer's liability insurance? Yes. Can you give us a little outline of what the student will be doing? Do you agree that they'll be supervised? There might be afterwards, and this is really helpful for the student, like an evaluation form or a reflection form. Can you tell us a little bit about how the student performed, which is really helpful for the student because they can then maybe use that in their personal statement or in their CV in some way, and the school can feed that back into the parent or into their evaluation. So if you're being asked for a lot of paperwork and a lot of red tape, get in touch with your EC because a lot of that isn't necessary. Nikki or Shirley, I don't know if you wanted to add anything.
No, that's right. I mean, there are
Yeah.
organisations that take that away from the schools, but there's a price attached to it. But yeah, it shouldn't be onerous for the employer. It should be, as Beth said, the employer liability insurance. But that's where a lot of schools and employers are offering experiences. So I've got quite a few schools where, you know, a minibus of students will go to the employer premises, have a look around, speak to as many members of staff from each department as possible, maybe do a little activity, maybe speak to a young apprentice if that's what they've got. And even that is a great help and support to the student. It's certainly better than nothing, and it works well.
I think
that works well for employers as well, doesn't it? Because it's a bit more manageable sometimes than a week or 2 weeks at a time. So certainly from my point of view, bringing someone in, having a day's worth of interaction with a smaller group, I can support that with all the things that you've said. So sorry, Nikki, I interrupted you.
No, I was just going to say, I mean, I agree with obviously everything everyone said, but for some students as well, they may never have been in any workplace at all. They may not have a Saturday job, a part-time job, because it's quite difficult for them to get it. So this may be the first time they've actually entered into a workplace of some description, outside of a retail environment, for example, or somewhere they might go like that. So anything they can get out, the experiences are a brilliant taster to start with. And you don't know, they may come back and decide to work voluntary in the summer, or you may think you can have them for in the summer for something like that, or after when they leave school. So it does definitely work both ways, and they definitely need to be trying to get some sort of form of work experience if they can.
It's so helpful if you think about the things that I said employers are complaining about. You know, they don't know how to turn up early for work. They don't know how to look smart. They don't know how to shake hands. They don't know how to have eye contact. All of those things, they can get that experience from a work experience placement. So I'm aware that we've just got 5 minutes left. So Shelley, if you could put up the final slide. I'm not even daring to try my computer again. And then Nikki's going to just talk through a few things to do from here on in.
Yeah, this is really just the checklist for what, you know, once you see the next steps, as it says, for the enterprise advisor. So please don't look at that list and think, oh my gosh, I haven't done all of that, or I haven't done it in that order. Please don't panic about that, because that's what we're here for, and we'll support you through that. And it may be that you've done some things and not other things. Right at the top, I touched on it at the beginning, you can sign up to the digital hub, and there's some training and information on there that you can do, some courses which are brilliant. So it gives you more information as well. The resources on the Careers and Enterprise Company is fantastic. And that links down to the second one as well about the reading material. The paperwork, I don't think it's onerous. I mean, you know, you've got to sign some form, you know, you're not signing your life away. So please don't panic again. But that paperwork we'll send out to you. The DBS check as well. We'll send you the link for you to do the DBS check. So your DBS checked for the schools. And then you'd have a talk with us, and we'd have a look, you know, what schools and colleges are available. If we think you'd be matched one in particular. You also, if you go to a school and you think, I don't really think I'm going to get on with that careers lead, that's absolutely fine, because we don't get on with everybody in life. And if you think I'm not going to work very well with that one, then that's fine. Just say that, and then we'll have a look and we'll have a rejig around. And then, yes, you would meet the careers lead. And then, as we've said as well, the cluster meetings, if you can get the cluster meetings. I know Rachel and Claire are coming to mine tomorrow. They haven't even met their careers leads. So, but they're coming to mind tomorrow. So that's great, because it's just really good for like networking. I think networking, all the careers leads wants to network. It can be quite a lonely job being a careers lead. They're sort of on their own sometimes. So if they can meet other careers leads, and you know, you get so much, we all know that from networking, you just speak to someone else and it's like, oh right, you're doing this or you're doing that, great, I hadn't thought about it. That's what they're really good for. So that's really basically it. The last slide is really just to thank you for our presentation.